So I think I've written 2 articles for Richmond Hires thus far. The first one is about the 4-day work week. So that's kind of a popular concept in business. And to clarify, I'm talking about a 4-day, 32-hour work week. So you're still working 8-hour days, not packing all that time into a shorter 4-day window. And across different industries, in different companies, in different countries where this paradigm has been tested, they've shown consistently that they're able to meet the same productivity outputs in 32 hours as they do in 40 hours. So you might be familiar with the idea that work will fill up as much time as you allow it, and you're not necessarily accomplishing more.
Welcome to America's Healthiest City. I'm your host, Will Melton. Thank you for joining me. Today I am bringing on Courtney Turrin, the Chief Work Officer from Xponent21. I'm excited to introduce her, but before we get started, I do want to remind those of you who have heard this show before and tell those of you who are new, America's Healthiest City is a 10-year initiative, a community partnership to make Richmond the healthiest community in America. You can check out the website americashealthiestcity.com to submit your ideas, leave comments on ideas that have been left by others, read the stories, and see how you can get engaged as an ambassador or just a participant in our community. As we get into the show today, just full disclosure, Xponent21 is a sponsor of this show, but that's not why we have Courtney on today. We're actually going to talk about the future of work. So without further ado, I want to bring Courtney on and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so there's nobody better that can tell your story than you can. We know each other, obviously, but I want to start by just covering your professional background, because you are Chief Work Officer at Xponent21, but that's not been your role this whole time. So start with kind of what you got into the world as an adult doing, and how did you arrive where you're at today?
Okay, well, buckle up. It's kind of a long journey. So I started out in grad school at William & Mary studying bald eagles, and I was looking at social dynamics as eagles compete for space as the population kind of comes back into health. And then from there, I decided that I wanted to understand more about social behavior. I was really interested in what I saw as I was observing eagles interact over their nesting sites. And so I continued on to second round grad school at Yale, and there I was working with dingoes and dogs and monkeys, studying social interactions and looking at cognitive psychology questions. And then from there, I realized that academia, while it was incredibly interesting and a wonderful time where I was able to kind of dive deep into some nuanced topics that interest me, I realized that the lifestyle of an academic was really intense. The career path that was available to me there was as a professor, and I would have been essentially dedicating all of my time to my work, and I knew that that wasn't going to provide the life that I was looking for. And so that's when I made the shift into business. And in order to make that shift, I initially relied upon my training as a data scientist. So I was utilizing those skills in a marketing capacity. So marketing relies a ton on data analytics in order to optimize campaigns and improve return on investment in marketing spend. And so I was using my skill set in data analytics in order to support our marketing team. And then from there, I got really interested in project management and website development. And so I was able to make a move, kind of I would say a lateral move within Xponent21 to work more with our development team, managing projects as the director of operations. And then that led me to an interest in process optimization, process documentation and looking at what technology tools our team was using and how we could improve workflows, introduce efficiencies that would allow the team to spend less of their time on sort of the repetitive actions and more time on the creative pursuits and engaging with clients on their strategy and collaborating with each other to create great products. So that contributed to my current role, where I am the Chief Work Officer, which is kind of a new concept in business. It's sometimes referred to as a Chief People Officer, but essentially it's the person whose job it is to focus on the employee experience, which is critical for the productivity of the team, employee retention, which is becoming an increasingly relevant issue for businesses, and making sure that employees have all of the support and the tools that they need to do their best work for the clients.
Thanks for that. So obviously a lot of change over your professional career. We'll get back to kind of how you went about that change and you know, what motivated it. But you know, before we do that, I want to start into Xponent21's mission, which I know very well to be to make the world a better place to work. And I want to tease out of you a little bit how your work today as Chief Work Officer kind of, you know, affects that, and you know, maybe beyond just your own role, how our organization can affect that inside the walls of our organization.
So it all starts with the foundation on our own team. So we've dedicated a lot of time and resources towards understanding how to set our team up for success, and that's a combination of workflows and collaboration at work, the tools that we make available to the team, the support that we provide each other, and then that kind of by extension impacts our clients' experience of their work, because if you're working with a partner who is excited about what they're doing and they have the support and tools they need to thrive in their work, it makes it a more positive and engaging experience for the client, and they get better results. So that's one impact that's beyond our company walls. And then we've also started a couple of different projects over the past, I would say 12 months, that have kind of furthered our impact on the immediate community. So one of the things that we've started is Richmond Hires, which is a local job board where people in the community can find advice. And so I work as a contributing writer for that job board blog. And then it's also going to connect employers with applicants in the community, all organized around the same belief that work should be something rewarding and it should fill up your cup and engage you in your life.
And I will just mention that Xponent21 is the creator of americashealthiestcity.com. It makes all of our communications possible. So, you know, it's not just Richmond Hires, but America's Healthiest City and other projects as well. So let's talk a little bit about, so you've written for richmondhires.com. That's a platform for folks in the community to be able to connect with other professionals. As a contributing writer, do you want to share a little bit about what you've written for Richmond Hires?
Sure. So I think I've written 2 articles for Richmond Hires thus far. The first one is about the 4-day work week. So that's kind of a popular concept in business. And to clarify, I'm talking about a 4-day, 32-hour work week. So you're still working 8-hour days, not packing all that time into a shorter 4-day window. And across different industries, in different companies, in different countries where this paradigm has been tested, they've shown consistently that they're able to meet the same productivity outputs in 32 hours as they do in 40 hours. So you might be familiar with the idea that work will fill up as much time as you allow it, and you're not necessarily accomplishing more. So one of my articles was about the making the shift towards the 4-day work week as a way of making work more productive, more enjoyable, and take up less of our lives. And then the other article that I wrote was about the impact of AI tools like ChatGPT on creative professionals. So there's been a lot of talk around how these tools might impact certain careers more than others. And the focus of that piece was looking at what are the things that human beings bring to the table creatively that automation tools do not. And there are a couple of things. One is creativity, one is emotional intelligence, critical thinking, and then of course any actions that might involve more nuanced dexterity as well, like a manual action. But my takeaway from that is that AI tools can be used to, again, reduce the amount of time we're spending on repetitive activities and create more space for some of the collaborative, creative pursuits that take actually more time to allow those things to develop.
You're listening to America's Healthiest City. I'm your host, Will Melton. This is ESPN Richmond 106.1, and I have today Courtney Turrin, Chief Work Officer of Xponent21, and we're talking about the future of work. So we could probably spend an entire episode or 3 on ChatGPT and the world of AI. Maybe we'll get a little bit into that later, but I want to go back to sort of the mission of making the world a better place to work and the different ways that we affect that. Certainly, trying to spread the word about how people can change in this dynamic environment is one thing that we can do, and we're doing through America's Healthiest City, we're doing through Richmond Hires. But I want to talk a little bit more about sort of the employer responsibility, and you suggested it with the 4-day work week. I'll illuminate an idea that's been submitted to americashealthiestcity.com, which is to take up a regional pilot, and we've challenged the University of Richmond and the Federal Reserve to come to the table to help us with that, so that we can bring other people to the table. So on that front, we've done a 4-day work week at Xponent21. Let's talk about the results of that for Xponent21 and sort of the work that you've done post-implementation to disseminate the success of that for Xponent21.
So I'll start with one of the companies that inspired that was Microsoft did a 4-day work week pilot in Japan, and they clocked a 40% increase in productivity after implementing that. And so back in January 2020, before the pandemic was really in full force, we implemented the 4-day, 32-hour work week at Xponent21. And to track the impact of that on our team, we looked at our task performance data. So we use a tool called Asana to manage our work, and so we could easily look back we looked at a year, so we looked at 2020 compared to 2019. And we looked within individuals of how many tasks they were completing, and then we looked at that across the whole team as well. And we measured a 38% increase in task performance in the year that we implemented this 4-day work week. So that I thought was really interesting because it mapped on almost exactly to what Microsoft's study showed. And then what was the second part of your question?
Well, just, the dissemination of that. The communications around the success of that.
So following that study, I worked with a member of the team, Jillian Broadwell, to write an article sharing our data from that study. And then from there, that's kind of what informed that first article that I wrote for the Richmond Hires job board about kind of sharing this idea that we can actually do more work and enjoy our work more in 4 days than we do in 5.
So a lot of that has to do with the employer responsibility to change in a dynamic environment, and an employer responsibility to share and to see if we can bring other people along. But there's another component here, and that's the employee responsibility, the recognition of an employee that they have some amount of control. So I want to go back to your story professional history and how you've been able to make the leap from one academic career to another, and then from the academic career to a completely different field in business. What prompted those changes for you, and maybe what lessons from those changes might you share with other people who are looking for opportunities in their professional life?
So the shift from my first subject of study to the second subject of study was prompted by a change in my interests. So as a result of completing the study that I did at William & Mary, looking at bald eagles, I realized that I was interested in social behavior, and so I was looking for opportunities to research that, and it just happened to be best done in a different species example. So that led me to Yale. And then at Yale, I realized that I was not going to be able to live the life that I wanted if I continued down that professional path. And so what I did was I thought about, well, what are the skills that I do have and how might I apply them to something new? So for anyone that is looking to make a career shift, I would suggest taking some time to reflect on that, like what are your skills? And even if you don't see them being directly applicable to something that you might be interested in trying next, you can get creative with that. And one of the best ways to tell that story is using your cover letter. So especially if you're going to be switching careers, really take advantage of the cover letter to explain your story and how you're ending up seeking this opportunity. And then within the Xponent21 team, one of the things that we always talk about is the ability to grow into new roles on the team. And so we make that available to employees, and they have to kind of take the responsibility of recognizing when they want to change roles or try something new, or maybe with part of their time, all of their time, and then offering them the support to make that happen, to give them the pathway to try something else.
So maybe that's not available to everybody in every workplace, but we authored an article for Richmond Hires earlier this year about transcending the ladder and really talking about things that you can do to kind of build yourself up professionally, whether or not you have opportunities inside your organization. Do you have any thoughts on, again, going back to the need to practice in a new space, in a new career that you don't have professional training in? What kind of things would you say people can do to develop their skills, and what sort of skills might be something that folks would benefit from today in this dynamic environment?
I would suggest looking for opportunities to get involved in the community in a way that might allow you to flex that skill muscle. So there's always nonprofits and organizations that are looking for volunteers. So that's one way to do it, and that could certainly be something that you could put on a resume or talk about in a cover letter or job interview in the future. So volunteer opportunities, and then also pursuing educational opportunities outside of standard classroom. Like, you don't need to go back to school per se, but you might be able to find, especially now with online classes and workshops, so kind of taking the initiative to educate yourself in an area that you might be interested in, and then applying that to new roles. I would say those are two good places to start.
You're listening to America's Healthiest City on ESPN Richmond 106.1 on the Mike King Biz Radio Network. We're talking to Courtney Turrin, Chief Work Officer at Xponent21, and we've covered a lot in the future of work, and Xponent21 is a creative place. The mantra for Xponent21 for 2023 internally is courageous creativity. I want to pivot a little bit and talk about a courageous creative project that you've embarked on, which is your own podcast. And so tell the audience a little bit about the podcast, how it came to be, and what you're doing with it.
So the podcast is called Their Ladyship, and it is a podcast that I co-host with my friend and personal stylist, Emmeline Chappell. And she owns a personal styling company. I am an owner in Xponent21. And so the podcast is kind of a lifestyle, self-improvement podcast that's geared towards women in business, particularly in leadership and entrepreneurship. And it's definitely a fun pursuit for both of us are very busy. We're running successful businesses, so we don't put too much pressure on it. And this was courageous for me because I have always been a perfectionist, and I've always wanted everything I put out there to be perfect, I's dotted, T's crossed, and the podcast model is built around getting an audience so that you can get ad dollars, and we just didn't want to make it about that. We wanted it to maintain this fun, light air for both of us in order to fill our cups and keep doing it. And so it's been a fun pursuit for me. It's also encouraged me to get outside of my comfort zone, kind of sharing more of myself and about myself than I have historically been comfortable doing. And I'm surprised that we do have a growing audience, and that's exciting. And so it's been a good way for me to flex my creative muscle.
Where do you see their ladyship going in the future?
Well, we just did our first interview, and that was really fun for both of us to have a third person kind of in the loop and to be able to dive deep into a topic with an expert. So I see us doing more interviews in the future and continuing to have fun with it and not put too much pressure on it.
And I want to back up a little bit and just talk about your co-host, Emmeline Chappell. So you two have both been on Mike King's show, and I don't know exactly what you guys talked about in that show. I don't remember anyway, but you guys met through your own personal pursuit of higher fashion for professional reasons, right? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think it's a common misconception that focusing too much on your external appearance is a little shallow. But actually in business, the way that you present yourself is extremely important, both to how others perceive you as well as how you show up, how you feel about yourself, how powerful you feel, etc. And so Emmeline and I worked together to kind of transition my wardrobe from an grad school academic who didn't really care too much about shopping to being able to show up feeling like myself and feeling comfortable and confident. And actually it has helped me to become a better networker, to be able to get excited about going to networking events and feel confident there in that space. And so for me, fashion has been transformational.
Well, I love the many creative endeavors. I think that you're a great role model for women and men in the business world to be able to make those leaps. Since we've got a little bit of time left, I want to go into a little bit more on the AI front, because it seems like this conversation keeps popping up. Whether it's a hostile responding chatbot, or how search is going to change and how advertising is going to change for folks. Let's talk a little bit more about how you see AI changing things as we march into the future, both as it challenges workers, but also how it becomes an opportunity.
So AI is not new. Automation has been around since the early 1900s, as far as I know. With the assembly line and automaking, but what's new now is the availability of those tools to the broader public. And so I think what people are concerned about is how that might impact job prospects for certain people. And I see it as an opportunity. So how can we use these tools to, again, reduce the amount of time we spend on the kind of monotonous tasks and the things that could be automated and done by a machine, and free up more of our time for reflection and connection and creativity so that we can do better work, I would say.
Now, you have had the opportunity to play with some AI-based tools and see the output of some AI-based tools. What would be your assessment of where we are with AI today? And just based on that, do you see it becoming a threat to the worker at some point as things advance?
So I would say that the ChatGPT and tools like Jasper are still in their infancy, and I know that according to current press, they're expecting to release a major update to ChatGPT, which will offer a lot more advanced functionality. Currently, I don't think that they can do much to supplant the creative worker's role. But according to the forecasting, I mean, they're going to be much more powerful very soon. So I see, again, it as an opportunity. We have to think of it as an opportunity because it's coming. So we have to think of it as an opportunity to work with the tool and put that tool to use in order to make work better for humans.
And so, so ubiquitous, these tools. I mean, some of them are absolutely free to use. What do you think about the introduction of AI tools into the workplace? So, you know, an employee could start using an off-the-shelf tool to improve their productivity. An employer could choose to do that. They could be reluctant to adopt these things. We're seeing some of these conversations in schools as well. You know, do you think that it would behoove individuals and companies to start playing with these tools now?
Absolutely. I think, as is true for probably any technology, the sooner that you start playing around with it and learning how it works and learning what it can do, the more you'll be able to put that tool to use, and you'll be on the front end of adoption. Like, these tools aren't going away. They're becoming more and more common and more integrated into our lives. And so I would suggest that you see it as an opportunity to play, to be creative, and explore the different ways that these tools might improve our lives in the future.
Thank you for coming on today. I have no doubt that our audience is going to take a great deal of value away from your insights, so I hope we have you on again soon.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So you've been listening to America's Healthiest City on ESPN Richmond 106.1. Please visit us at americashealthiestcity.com to leave your ideas, to comment on others' ideas, and to become an ambassador if you represent a business, a nonprofit organization, or government organization. My name is Will Melton. We will see you next week, 6 a.m. ESPN Richmond. Thank you.